Wheels come full circle.
Luxembourg. Audio storage developed of thin magnesite coated plastic tape. He used reed-to-reed tapes in 1947 to pre-record his radio shows on machines taken out of Germany by the US.
Wheels come full circle, sky falling down. Gotta keep on moving to the breaking ground. Take a sip from what they're passing around.
We use Heineken bottles to show how it works.
Yeah. And there's obviously somebody able to control it. There's
you control it from here.
Yeah. But there's an operator that knows how to use it, obviously. Yeah.
Oh, it's 80s. It's 80s, you know. But it's dangerous, you see, so.
Yeah. A lot of high voltage and stuff.
Exactly.
It's a pity now the way.
An exhibition dedicated to the development of computer technology opened at NUIG's Digital Enterprise Research Institute in Galway in May 2010. It is managed by Brendan Smyth, DERI's Education Officer.
This was a massive invention because it allowed speed writing, the typewriter. And the keyboard we have today in the computer is the keyboard that was here with us since 1873, the Americans, you know. But up until then, offices were all dominated by men. You know, it was boring old men doing writing. But thanks to typewriter, men couldn't do the speed that women can do. So it helped with female emancipation, bringing women into the workforce.
There are exhibits on the development of portable computers and printers with displays on the DEC VAX, Apple Macintosh, IBM PC, Commodore 64, the VIC-20, BBC and the Sinclair ZX81.
You put it here on an ink drum, this is ink, and then the print would come out on the paper as the paper would go through, you know, and that was very popular up until very recently times, you know. I used it myself.
For most people, a transistor was the first piece of technical equipment they owned. At the start of the 60s, the first commercially produced integrated circuit with less than 10 transistors and other components cost $1,000. In the years ahead, ICs underwent enormous change. Every year, the number of components on an integrated circuit doubled. Within a decade, the cost of ICs had dropped to pennies. Digital Equipment Corporation set up in Galway in 1971 and became the first such multinational entity to establish an export manufacturing operation in Ireland.
There's a university here, they needed scientists, engineers and administrators, so that's the reason why Galway. But they came as well because of the corporate tax that we have still, a controversial issue today, an English-speaking workforce, an educated workforce, about to join the European Union, more or less, they knew then that was going to happen. But also because of the Irish diaspora. A lot of, this is from 71 from the Irish Times, a lot of the managers were the Irish that left in the bad days of the 50s and 60s, coming back home to give jobs to the old sod, you know. So there's a selection of the computers there, you know. And the company, and two ways, both digital, you know, as the processor, but also digital as the actual company itself, you know.
The ZX80 computer could be bought for £100, less if purchased as a kit and it plugged into any television. Programs were sold on cassettes, playable by a cheap cassette recorder. Sinclair's computers took over most of the British market, and for a short time, even in America, he was selling more machines than the 3 market leaders put together. They turned up everywhere.
Or preschool to give him a head start.
It was huge, yeah.
Because if you had 16k, you could run chess out.
Oh, is that it? Didn't know that.
Still another Pacific Life I had.
Big 20. Huh? I had, yeah. I had, yeah.
So it's the only museum of its type in all of Ireland. We're trying to develop.
No, you type in the number of the line first.
Oh, the number of the line, and then...
Yes, and then the rest. The instructions.
Yeah, run it to
Yeah. Just if you wait a second, I'll show you the result.
You actually have a program written.
Chose the Commodore 64. That's what we like about our competition. They're so honest. The Commodore 64. What nobody else can give you at twice the price.
Some used them for games, and later scientific and business uses were found, but whatever the reason, people seemed to want to own them. Steve Wozniak and his partner Steve Jobs would help write the next chapter of the computer revolution, putting the power of the computer into the hands of millions of people.
The reason why they called it Apple, because the students, they worked in an orchard in stateside, you know, because it was a big culture shock for people, and they always were very much into innovation, you know. Steve Jobs and the boy Steve Wozniak, they set up in 77 onwards, and at that time San Francisco still had that kind of hippie vibe, so they went for colour, you know, the rainbow coalition as opposed to the stern look of the IBM. And this one again, if you look at the back of them, they are made in Ireland, you know, they're made in Ireland symbol. They came out in 84. There was an original model called the Apple Lisa, which was quite larger, and that was called after Steve Jobs' girlfriend, you know, at the time. But the Lisa and this came for £6,500, and that was a lot of money. But as an internet-connected computer, rather than a standalone or a PC. And I stands for Internet, and he used candy-type colours. When Steve Jobs came back in, he kind of...
The Macintosh marked the beginning of a new era of computing. Gone are the arcane symbols. Instead, using a mouse, a person pushes and pulls pictures using the learning skill picked up in childhood. The computer screen, with its pictures and icons, depicts a familiar world that even a child can understand. Apple computers prospered, becoming the fastest growing company in history. Jobs and Wozniak became rich beyond their dreams. Each ended up with more than $100 million.
Oh, no, I'm just playing around with this dude. But there was some problem with that, with the mini chill, wasn't there?
It was the Prestel. I thought that...
There is one section of the museum that should be very popular with all those young at hearts, namely the computers that allow users to play the legendary video games of the late 1970s, including Pac-Man, Space Invaders and Asteroids.
We can make a new world. We can make a new world. We can make a new world.